Welcome to Jason in the Kitchen. Today we're going to be making biscuits with sausage gravy. So let's get started. Alright, we're going to make our sausage. This is a breakfast sausage, so we have breakfast seasonings here. You can go through the process of grinding your own pork, but I just find it easier to buy ground pork already. This is a natural 80-20 pork. You need that fat for the sausage. So what we have here in the seasonings, we've got a teaspoon of kosher salt, 3/4 teaspoon, I only used half, I thought 3/4 is too much for me, of ground pepper. And then for the herbs, I have fresh herbs here, a teaspoon of fresh sage, and a teaspoon of fresh thyme leaves that are diced. Now you can use dried, just use half of the dried. Make sure your sage though is the finely ground sage, or you use whatever you want to taste. Normally I use dried, but I have fresh this time, so that's what I'm using. And then you can add a 1/4 teaspoon of finely chopped rosemary leaves. I don't have fresh rosemary. I don't like the dried rosemary, so I just left it out. I've used it before and chopped it up, but it's still really hard. I guess you could grind it up in like a coffee grinder if you wanted to get it really fine ground if you use dried. Then I've got 1.5 teaspoons of light brown sugar, a 1/4 teaspoon of fresh ground nutmeg, 1/4 teaspoon of cayenne pepper, and a 1/4 teaspoon of red pepper flakes. So we're just going to add that all to the pork, and then we're going to mix it up. Couldn't be any easier, and you know the ingredients that you're putting into it. Now if I can get a good quality sausage that is cheaper than I can get the ground pork for, yeah, sometimes I'll just buy the ground pork if it's on sale. I mean the sausage on sale if it's a good quality and it's cheaper than what I could buy the ground pork for. You just want to mix this together really good. This is an Alton brown recipe that I've scaled down. Of course, he's fresh ground his pork butt and pork fat back. I just go ahead and buy the pork already ground to save time. So you just want to mix all this together really good. Now I'll show you how you can taste this to make sure that it's seasoned properly. Okay, I've got a very small pot of water on. It's at a simmer right now. I'm just going to drop a little piece of the sausage into the water, make it into a ball, and just put that in there. Let that poach, and then when it's cooked through, you just taste it and you see how well your meat is seasoned. It's as simple as that. Now if you don't want to go through the trouble of putting the water on the heat, just put it in the microwave on a paper towel, 15-20 seconds, a small piece, until it gets cooked, and then try it that way. And that's a good way you can taste your seasoning, because we don't want to taste raw meat, obviously. Alright, so you just let this go for a minute or two until it's cooked. And turn off the heat. And then just let it cool down for a second. And you can try this and see if your sausage is properly seasoned. And it's good. It's good for me. Got a little bit of sweetness, and then you get that heat on the back end from the cayenne and the red chili flake. But you can adjust these seasonings to your liking. Now all I'm going to do is take my sausage and I'm going to put it in a deli container. This is a quart deli container. And now You know, you can label this and date it. You could keep it in the refrigerator for up to a week, or you could freeze it for up to 3 months. And so this is our sausage ready for our biscuits and gravy. Okay, for our buttermilk biscuits, I've got 3½ cups of all-purpose flour, 5 teaspoons baking powder, 1½ teaspoons baking soda, 2 tablespoons of sugar, 1 teaspoon kosher salt. And then for the butter, I've got 170 grams of butter. You can use ½ cup of shortening, 1/4 cup of butter. I just prefer all butter. You can use lard as well instead of the shortening. And then I've got 1½ cups of buttermilk. So with these dry ingredients, I'm just going to whisk these together. Just to combine them, kind of aerate everything. Okay, that's good. Now for our butter, I've left it in the freezer so it doesn't get too warm. What I'm going to do is I'm going to grate this right into the dry ingredients. Freezing the butter, make sure that it stays really cold. And then this grating it in, just make sure that it incorporates well. And while I'm doing all this, I've got my oven heated to 400 degrees. And I've got a pan on low heat for the gravy. This is a buttermilk biscuit recipe by Grady Spears. This is my go-to biscuit recipe. It always comes out good. Now for the 1½ cups of buttermilk, I haven't gone to the store yet this week, so I didn't have buttermilk. So what I did was I mixed some sour cream with some milk to give that acidic butter that acidic milk that we need to help these biscuits rise. In the past, I've used plain, make sure it's plain, yogurt. That works good. You can also make your own buttermilk with vinegar and milk. And you can also use the powdered buttermilk. But for me, I found that the best thing to use is always use the real buttermilk. But in a pinch, you got to do what you got to do. So now you just mix this with your hands, incorporate that butter into our dry ingredients. You can use a pastry cutter for this, you can use a fork. I just like using my hands, make sure it's all incorporated. We're just about there. You can see and you can feel the texture of the flour changing as that butter gets incorporated in there. You get like these chunks of flour now. A lot of people say it looks like wet sand. You want those chunks of butter in there. That's going to make a nice biscuit. Okay, that looks good. Looks like you got all that butter worked in there to the dry ingredients. Now, We're going to add the buttermilk or the sour cream milk. Now we're going to mix this together to form our biscuit dough. You can feel it coming together. Just scrape off your hands if you need to. It's starting to come together really good. It's real sticky though. Clean your hands off. You want to make sure all the flour is incorporated. Looking good. And clean my hands off. Now I'm gonna dump this out onto our bench here with put some flour down, and then we're gonna shape our biscuits. Then we're gonna cut them. A good way to get flour off your hand, sticky dough off your hands, just to put your hands in some flour and rub them together, and that'll get the flour off your hands. So I'm gonna clean up my hands real quick, clean up my counter, and I'll be back. All right, I've got my dough out on my floured surface here. I'm gonna work it together. Okay. Just until it comes together. You don't want to work it too much. You just want to knead it for a few times until it comes together. You really don't want to create any gluten here, or too much I should say. Okay, now you can roll this out if you want to with a rolling pin, or you can just flatten it out with your hands. You want about an inch, inch and a half thick on your biscuit dough here. All right. Now I'm going to cut out the biscuits. I've got a sheet pan lined with my Silpat. You can rub it down with butter. You can use parchment paper. I just like to use the Silpat out of convenience. So we're going to cut out our biscuits. Don't twist, just put it straight down. You can use a glass for this if you don't have a cutter. Try and get as close to your cuts as possible. Now if you wanted to you could roll this up and do a couple book folds and roll it out to make flaky biscuits. That works as well. Sometimes I don't care if these are exact circles. Get kind of a rustic look. I'm going to be pouring gravy over them anyway, so it really doesn't matter, because the more you re-roll, get a different biscuit texture. So it just depends on what size you cut your biscuits and how thick they are as to how many biscuits you're going to get. And I just shape a little one like this. This will be the cook's piece. We'll put that on there. Okay, so I've got, out of this size, I've got nine full biscuits and a piece. Okay, so while I'm gonna let these rest for a few minutes while I clean my station, or I clean my work area, my work surface, and then I'm gonna get the ingredients together for our gravy. All right, for our gravy, I've got that sausage that we made earlier, and I've separated enough off to make 2 patties. That's going to be for Jason because he doesn't like gravy, so he's going to get a sausage and cheese biscuits instead. So here again, you can use the same ingredients to make something different. If your kids don't like the same thing you do, you can use the same ingredients to make something else, and it's not that big of a deal for something different. I've also got a 1/4 cup of butter, 5 tablespoons of flour, 2.5 cups of milk, 1.5 teaspoons of salt, and then we're going to have some black pepper with that as well. That's a 1/4 cup or 57 grams of butter if you use grams. For me, the butters come in a block, so it's easier for me to measure them out in grams instead of cups. I prefer to use grams anyway, but some recipes have cups, so I just use cups. But if they have grams, I would prefer grams. You can also convert your measurements. It's not that big of a deal. All right, so here I'm going to go ahead and put our biscuits in the oven. These are going to take 12 to 15 minutes in the 400-degree oven. Okay. Then we're going to start our sausage over here. I'm going to hold off on cooking the patties because those don't take as long. I'm going to get the gravy started first. Turn my heat a little bit more. And we're just going to break this up and cook this sausage until it browns, and then we'll add the rest of the ingredients. All right, now I'm going to add the butter, and we're going to melt that in there. Even though the sausage is, we used 80/20 ground pork to make it, there's not enough fat in the pan to make the gravy, so that's why we need to add the butter. All right, now we're going to add our flour. Coat that sausage and absorb that butter and that fat that's in the pan. And we're going to let this cook for a minute or two to cook the flour out before we add our milk. All right, I'm going to go ahead and whisk in my milk. Now, if your milk is hot, it'll thicken up a lot faster. My milk is cold, I didn't heat it up, but that's okay. So we're going to start whisking as we pour it in, little by little. So we get all the milk in there. We'll continue to whisk. Get that flour up off of the bottom. And then we're just going to let this thicken up. Now you might see some yellow from your butter. That's okay, you just keep whisking, it'll whisk back together. It's not a big deal. Until it thickens up, it might do that. I'm going to go ahead and season this too. My salt. And I'm going to put some pepper in here. Just pepper to taste. I'm going to put some more on the top as well. I don't like my biscuits and gravy too peppery. Like I've had them sometimes at restaurants. But that's completely up to you, however you like it, because you're the one that's going to have to eat it. So that's good for me right there. Just going to whisk this together. And this is going to start to thicken up. Just keep an eye on it. I'm going to watch that, keep whisking it. I'm going to go ahead and put my sausage patties on. Get these cooked. Alright, I'm going to keep whisking this and watch that sausage and these biscuits. I've rotated the biscuits already, so they're about halfway done. So I've already rotated them so they brown evenly. And then when this gravy thickens up, and the sausage and biscuits are ready, I'll be back. Okay, I just flipped over the sausage patties. They're nicely browned. And now I've put the cheese on top to melt. So those are going good. Gravy's thickening up. It's looking really good. Okay, my gravy's thickened up. It's looking good. I turned down the heat so it doesn't get too thick. You can serve it as thick as you like. But this is a good consistency for me right here. You know, as it starts coming up to the boil or the simmer, that's when it starts thickening up. So that's good to go. Sausage looks ready. Biscuits are out of the oven, so let's plate this up. All right, look how good those biscuits look. So what I'm going to do is take a couple of these biscuits and break them open for the sausage patties, and then I'm going to break some open and have them open faced for the gravy. Alright, I'll get some of these bigger ones like this, open them up. Look how nice those look. That'll be for the sausage biscuits. Look at that one. It's a nice one. Okay, that's ready. Now I'll take some for me. It doesn't really matter how pretty they are if you're just using them to cover them with gravy. I'm hungry, so I'll use 3 biscuits. There's the sausage and cheese. Oh, those look good. You just like some plain, so don't have to add any butter or any jelly or anything like that. You just like some just like that. Let me get rid of this tray. And we'll serve up our gravy. Take some of this gravy, pour them over these biscuits. Look at that. That look good. I love biscuits and gravy. All right, now to finish these off, I'm going to put some cracked pepper on top. Okay. And then because I have them, You can use chives. I've got some green onion tops that I'm going to put on here. You can leave these out if you like. Most of the time I don't even have green onion to put these on, but that'd be a nice touch. All right, Yvette's not eating with us tonight, so she's not feeling well, so Jason and I are going to eat dinner. Everything looks good, steaming hot, so I want to thank you so much for watching these videos, and if you find value in them, please like and subscribe. God bless you. I'm going to sneak a bite real quick because I can't wait. Wow. Sausage has just enough spice. The gravy is creamy, well seasoned. Biscuits are nice and fluffy. I mean, can't beat it.